Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Poker Showdown brought to you by Party Poker. I am your host, Jaime Staples. This week on the show, we have Simon Trumper. Amazing talking to him. I mean, an old school player. He's been playing poker for 25 years, is the poker director at Dusk till Dawn as well. So a guy that has seen the older generation and been part of it as a professional, has ushered in a new generation of players as well as a director of one of the most successful card rooms in the world. It's just awesome to pick his brain, and a guy also very connected with the WPT World Online Championship this summer and Devilfish as well, the main guy that campaigned for him being inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame in 2017. So the whole interview was awesome. I think you're all going to really enjoy it. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about some of the online poker news this week. Let's talk a little bit about the High Roller Club. Michael Adamo won the 1 million guaranteed main event for more than 407,000, and Toon Mulder won the 5,200 main event for more than 90,000. But he also followed that up with 98,000 top prize in the 6max second chance 150k guaranteed event. So pretty incredible results for both of those players there. We're going to cover some of the industry stuff going on this week. We talk all about the World Poker Tour World Online Championship coming up this summer in the interview, so I'll leave that for the podcast. But if you guys don't know about it yet, definitely look it up and make sure you're aware of what's happening this summer. PokerStars this week also released an infographic, which I thought was really awesome. Even as a guy sponsored by Party Poker now, I think it's great when we call out good things happening in the industry. And PokerStars was very forthcoming about returning $2 million to players from cheats. In quarter 4 2019, PokerStars returned $1.87 million in confiscated winnings to players. 2,792 players had funds confiscated. There were 2,848 collusion and signature tournament review cases. 80% of those were proactively investigated by a PokerStars game integrity team, and 709 bot cases were investigated, 40% proactively by PokerStars. So I know Party Poker has been releasing reports as well as to the account closures, who they catch with cheating, and the money that's released back. I think it's just so great to see PokerStars follow suit in that regard and showcase that they're doing a lot to ensure games are safe and fair. It's so important for our game. So no matter the sites, no matter who I'm affiliated or working with, I think it's a great thing when sites take security seriously because it's important. Now, a big shout out here. The first Diamond Club Elite Cash player of 2020 is Duelist12. Duelist has generated $200,000 in rake in 96 days after the promo started to gain Diamond Club Elite status. Diamond Club Elite players get 60% rake back, a VIP package to the Caribbean Poker Party, and entry to a Millions online event. Duelist12 achieved the feat playing 2-5 PLO cash games. The Cyprus-based Greek player started his poker career with a $20 bankroll. Duelist said, "I can't say it was an easy task. It took a lot of dedication and effort, but in the end, it was worth it. I mainly did it to prove to myself that I could do it." That's amazing, my friends. 200,000 a rake, Diamond Club Elite, first of the year. Awesome stuff, and congratulations. So that's it for the online poker news this week. Let's jump right into the interview with Simon Trumper. Joining me on the podcast today, I have Simon Trumper. Simon, thanks for taking the time.
Hi, Jamie. Good to meet you.
I wanted to ask you about Dusk till Dawn. You've been the live poker director there since 2007. So how did you meet Rob Young? How did it all come together to where you found yourself in that role?
Well, I was playing professionally back in 2005, and I was fortunate enough to make the final table with the inaugural 10K PLO. And Nick Whiten, Rob's best friend, and Rob Young were railing me, basically.
Right.
During a break, Rob approached me and said, we're thinking of opening a poker club. Is this something you might be interested in helping us with? And I said, yeah, that would be great. Went back, played the final, didn't hear back from them till December of that year, 2005. And they said, we found a building. Would you like to come and look at it? I said, yeah, sure. So I went along January 2006, drove up to Nottingham, had a look round. And at the time it's on an industrial estate in Nottingham. And it was a place called Smiling Sam's. And it used to be like a theme pub, like a Western town. And I remember Rob opened it up and we went in with a torch and we're looking around and he's going, and they had like a bowling alley, and pool tables and stuff, like in this facade of a Western town. And he was saying, yeah, he said, and we're going to have like satellite area over here. We're going to have this over there. And, what do you think? And I said, wow, it's amazing. What a fantastic building. And I said, but I actually think we could do it a little bit differently. And believe it or not, what we did, we took a trip and we went to Vegas. and we went to Los Angeles. And I showed them places like the Hollywood Park, Bicycle Club, Commerce, obviously the big ones in Vegas as well. And we came back and we ended up doing Dusk to Dawn the way it is. We had it designed, and it's like coming into a theatre, with the three levels, with a curved back. I think you've been there, haven't you?
It's the most beautiful room I've walked into. Like when you walk in, it's set up in such a way that it's just like the levels are really special. Where it's three levels like that. There's not another card room like it walking into it. You guys have done a great job.
That's what we were aiming for. And the thing about Rob is like he's really passionate about poker and about perfection and giving the best possible experience to players. And he basically said to me, he said, I want you to come on board and I want you to use your experience as a traveling poker player and give me bullet points of what would give you the best experience. And I literally did this. I literally sat down, I wrote down, obvious things like, for example, being able to see enough clocks. So in the main room, there's like 24 screens, enough space between the tables, comfortable chairs, quality cards, quality chips, professionally trained dealers. And I literally did all these bullet points, handed it over to him. And I'm not kidding you, every single thing he provided. And we ended up opening, and I'd like to think that, we made a big difference. Dusk to Dawn has put itself on the map. And from that humble beginning, we've ended up in this position with Party Poker Live. We're providing, outside of a pandemic, we're providing live events all over the world with various partners.
That sounds very like Rob Young, I have to say. Like the whole story of how he put it together and worked with you. I mean, it's I can see him do it right now. It's pretty crazy that he picked you out from a final table and was like, that's absolutely our guy.
It's exactly how it happened.
That's amazing. I wanted to touch on poker because, of course, you were a poker professional before you mainly took up this role. So I learned from Party Poker and preparing for this podcast, you were expelled from secondary school for playing poker dice after a maths exam. So did you always have poker and gambling as part of you from a young age?
Not at all. I actually don't even remember where I got the poker dice from, but it is a true story. I was, obviously, I don't know how old I was at the time, 15, I guess, 16, taking an exam. And in those days, we used to have the exams in the assembly hall, so I'm in there, with however many other people on these little plastic chairs. Do you remember like the little, I don't know, if, like in the UK, you used to have these cheap plastic chairs,
right?
Little desk in front of us. And anyway, maths is one of my strong points. It's like, I've always been quick at arithmetic, and I finished really quick. So I happened to have the poker dice with me, and I took them out. There's 5 dice, took them out, and I started playing with them between my legs. And I didn't realise how noisy it was. And then this teacher came over and gave me a tap on the shoulder. Trumper, headmaster wants to see you. And I got expelled. That was it. I never passed any exams. They expelled me on the dot. That was it. I never took another exam.
Wow.
So, and I remember him saying to me, I can't remember his name, actually, Devereaux, I think his name was. And he said to me, Trumper, he said, I'm going to write a report. And he said, you'll be lucky if you get a job as a dustman. So, there you go. But and I then had a very unusual career. But from the poker side, so no, I didn't actually play poker until I was late 20s. I did play a little bit in pubs, but it was, brag and stuff like that. So it wasn't really poker.
Right.
But I had a friend of mine, much older guy, who used to say to me, oh, they play poker in the casino in Reading. They play, I'd love to go and play one day. I'd love to go and play. And I was going, oh, it's not really for me. I'm too busy. And anyway, he wore me down. And in the end, I decided to go. And I loved it. From the very first time that I went, I was playing a £10 tournament.
Right.
In Reading, pot limit hold'em. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. But I loved it, and I loved the social side of it, and it was so funny because there was a guy there, became a really good friend of mine, and we called him Lucky Bob. And everybody called him Lucky Bob. And he kept making the final. Well, it wasn't luck. He was actually probably the best player there, but at the time I didn't realise it. I thought he was lucky.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then how it progressed is an unusual story, but it's true. I went to, a friend took me to the Vic Casino in London, and he was writing a book on the probabilities of poker, right?
Okay.
On the mathematics side of it.
Yeah.
And he wanted to show me this. So we went back to his house, and he also on his computer had a floppy disk with the World Series of Poker game right?
Wow.
And he gave it.
Okay.
He gave it to me, and he said, he said, what you do? He said, you start off with $5,000, and you can go and play blackjack or roulette, and you have to double it up to 10,000, and then you can enter. I don't even know if this game still exists. He said you can enter the World Series of Poker. So I said, all right, I'll take it. So I took it home, stuck it in. Anyway, your little character can go. It's in Binions, and your little character can go downstairs into the shop and buy books, and they get sent up to your hotel room, and you get a chapter of each book.
Right.
Anyway, so I did this, and then I read them. And the first one was starting hands, the top 20 starting hands. And the next one was position play and stuff like that, And I'm reading it, and I suddenly thought, hold on a second, there's more to this than I realised. and I'm not kidding you, just reading those basics completely changed my game. Because I had no idea before, about how important it was.
Right.
Position and starting hands, and obviously abilities to put players on hands, and not just playing your hands, playing your opponent's hand, and letting them think what you've got, when you want them to think what you've got. And stuff
Absolutely,
like
yeah. It like opens up a world, yeah. Yeah, I remember the same experience, like when I first started playing, is you come into it with this expectation that it's, some sort of frivolous game where you look your opponent in the face and you put them on a hand, and then you see strategy and you open up the math side and like the starting hands, and it's like a new world, isn't it? It's just exciting. Yeah.
But can you imagine that? Just from that, that one night going up the Vic, and putting that, and honestly, it changed my poker career. Because all of a sudden I realised that it was skill-based, not luck-based. I like everybody who starts playing, thought it was luck-based, and it's just the cards you get, the cards that get dealt. But just reading that little bit of information changed everything, and then I suddenly realised that it's possible to become good at the game if you're willing to study and if you're willing to be self-critical, and analyse every time you've done something wrong, or when you finish a tournament. I used to analyse and overanalyse everything so that the next time I try not to make that same mistake. I just fell in love with the game, and I'm still in love with it 25 years later.
Yeah, I want to ask you about those early days, because poker was so different, right? When I started 10 years ago, there was training sites. Like I could turn to the experts, read all their books, go through their training sites, and like I had a clear path as to how to get good. But, you started playing 25 years ago. So who were your friends? And how did you guys manage to like get better at poker? Was it just experience, or did you study and learn together? How did it work?
Well, I'll be honest. I've never. The only book I've ever read, right? I read a couple of McAvoy's books on No Limit Hold'em. I've got both Super System, which Doyle signed for me when he came over to Dusk Till Dawn.
Right.
I've only ever read the No Limit section. So basically, I didn't have all those tools, and the only way that you could improve is by talking to other players that you saw were successful. Right. I mean, to give you an example, how I became known in the UK poker world was at the European Championships in '97, and this is where I met the likes of Surinder Sanar and Donica Day and Devilfish. These players were already revered in the European community, and in those days you didn't have satellite qualification, you didn't have 200 events, happening live across Europe, and the European Championship was always held at the Vic in London. And it was in July, and the top players from Europe would come over. And this for me was a big turning point, because I started to play with these players, and I realised that I was nowhere near their level, not even close. But by watching these players, you pick up so much experience. Watching how many hands they play, watching that they're not reading a paper in the middle of a hand. They're watching what their opponents are doing. And it just kind of that changed everything. And it was there that I actually met Devilfish. And that kind of helped me as well, because he kind of took me under his wing and used to give me lots of nuggets of advice. And then I started to travel, and it came from experience. The more I played, the more I learned, and hopefully gradually I got better. But I mean, today, like you said, you can go on forums and stuff. And since the boom, since Moneymaker, won the World Series of Poker, and then we've had the online boom, and the facilities for online tuition is just enormous, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's hard for you to understand if you've only been in 10 years. 25 years ago, there was probably 3 or 4 books that were available, in the Gamblers bookstore down in Vegas, and that was it. Now, how many books are there? There must be 1,000 books.
There's got to be,
even like books. I will tell you, actually, the one book that I did find really fascinating, there's one other book that I did read cover to cover, and that was Book of Tells by Mark Carrow.
Right.
Carrow, and if you've never read it, it's I think it was done in the 70s. But I love psychology, so I found that really interesting. And the one thing I find that nowadays, younger players coming into the game, they think it's all about aggression and mathematics. But I still think it's extremely important to understand the psychology of the game and to be able to, read a player.
Yes.
In the live arena. And I actually think it's fun to do. It has got more difficult because I remember, if you said to me, what's the main difference between 25 years ago and now? It's quite simple. In those days, you could pigeonhole players really easy. They were tight, semi-tight, weak, and semi-aggressive.
Yeah.
It was very, very easy, and they stuck to that play. I mean, it's really hard for you to believe this, but this is what used to happen. A guy would raise with ace king. You've called with 10-jack suited, for argument's sake. The flop comes 5, 6, 7. They check. They didn't bet in those days. If they missed, they checked. If they hit, they bet. And I know it sounds hard to believe, but it really was that simple. Yeah. So it meant if you was in position, you could play any 2 cards against that opponent. And you could either steal it on the flop or re-steal on the turn. You could, there's so many moves you could make. You can't do that today.
No.
Today, the players are so savvy with their bet sizing and their ranging, and they're always 9 out of 10 times they're doing continuation betting, and it's very, very hard to beat that, players that play that well. But that's what makes the game so exciting, because you can become as good as that player.
Yes, I remember watching some of the shows when you were probably in your heyday, right? And watching Devilfish, who we're going to talk about in a second. Watching him battle like Phil Hellmuth and Juha Helppi. And I remember them talking on those shows, and people would phrase it as, I'm an aggressive player, or I'm a tight player, or I'm a read player, or I'm a math player, right? There was no multifaceted. It was like, here's my strong suit, and this is how I'm known, right? That is very different. I think it's great you point that out. But let's talk about Devilfish here for a second, because you campaigned to have Devilfish inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame, which he successfully was in 2017. And my introduction to him is just on TV, and I think a lot of my generation and younger, may not have had the experience with Devilfish to know him. So for someone that has seen him on TV but didn't have the opportunity to play with him or understand his impact, what was Devilfish about?
Right. Okay. So in my experience, there are very few characters left in the game. We do have some standout players. So people that do that do generate interest from people, and they like to follow them and stuff. Devilfish was totally unique. I mean, I've never met anybody like him off the felt or on the felt, to be honest. And I think anybody you ever meet who met him and played with him will tell you the same. The guy was absolutely fearless.
Right.
I used to sit behind him in cash games. Whenever we were traveling, he'd say, "Oh, come and sit," and we would play. And I'm not kidding you, he would destroy the table. I've never seen anything like it. And it wasn't just pure aggression. He just wouldn't stop talking either. He just absolutely had them in the palm of his hands, and it was amazing to watch. And there's very, very few people. I think I spoke to Mike Sexton about it. He said the only person he's seen that had a similar aura and could do it was Stu Unger.
Right.
But it wasn't just that. Off the table, the guy could sing, he could play guitar, he could play piano, he was a stand-up comedian, so he was a really fun guy to be around. I had some amazing nights with him. He brought his guitar with him to Marbella. We did a tournament on 2 yachts. Would you believe that? 2 Sunseeker yachts for charity. And he brought his guitar, and every night he was just sat there playing his guitar, outside the tavern. It was incredible. Another time we were at the Master Classics in Amsterdam, and as we're leaving, there was a grand piano at the top of the stairs. He just sat down and started playing for everybody.
Right.
And he was quite famous for that. He did it in Paris as well. He in the middle of an awards dinner, he just got up and started playing with the band. And he was just like, I don't know, just such a driven character. And he was so fast thinking. He was like, if you ever saw any of his commentary, he could absolutely nail someone, exactly what they're going to do next, why they did what they did. In my opinion, he was one of the best commentators. And he was very funny as well, which made it great to watch him.
Yeah. I mean, there seems to be such magic around that generation in the way that they talked about poker and played poker. And he seems like such a special guy. Do we have hope in poker to get characters like him, or to get some of the magic back that seems to be missing sometimes from that generation in that time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's like, At the moment, I think one of the problems is what you pointed out. Most players take the game so seriously, don't they? And they've forgotten the fun element. It is supposed to be fun. Yes, we all want to win, but it's about learning, and improving your game, and more importantly, enjoying the experience. Right. And I think that that's one of the things that Dave did for everybody. When he was on the table, when he walked in the room, you knew that if he sat down at your table, it was going to be fun. You knew he was going to tell some cracking jokes. And he would be smiling as he took all your chips. But you knew that would happen. Today, more often than not, when you sit down, you have the younger players with their hoodies and they've got the headphones on or the dark glasses and stuff like that. And there isn't as much banter. But I do find that it is starting to come back. I think people are realising that as much as we all want to win, and there's great opportunities to qualify into bigger events and stuff like that. Once you get there, it should be a fun experience.
Awesome. Let's talk about the World Poker Tour World Online Championship. Speaking of big live events that are moved online. So coming up this summer, we have 12 championship events, buy-ins from $33 up to $102,000. So quite a range of opportunities there. What are your plans for the summer? Are you going to play any of these events? And what are your feelings in regards to the WPT and Party Poker collaboration?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd love to play some of the events, and there'll be a huge satellite program running behind all these championship events to give everybody from every single budget the opportunity to play. But I think the main thing that I love about the championships that we produce is we've got 12 championship events, so we're focusing on 12 events rather than a plethora of events. As traditionally would happen, for example, at the WSOP, where they have like 80, 90 bracelets. Right. We wanted to focus on 12 championship events, and we basically, as you know, there's going to be 5 championship club events where they win a tournament championship buy-in, $15,000 buy-in for next year, which obviously is fantastic as well. Yeah. But we want to have something that's prestigious. We want people to be able to, we want people of all bankrolls to be able to play it, which is why, as you said, you've got the mini, micro, and the main. So you've got outside of the main and the mini main, you've got the 3K main event, championship events, but they've also got a 300 and a 320 or 33 next to them. So that means that the idea of the WPT Championships, it's accessible to all, right. And I think that's something that's really important. The reason that the two brands fit so well together is they believe in the same things. They believe that poker should be fun, should be accessible to all, it should be prestigious, and it should be safe. One of the things that, as you know, Rob brought in is the removal of HUDs, for example. To level the playing field, and we took that a step further. For example, in the WPT World Online Championships, it's going to be single re-entry because we want it to be a level playing field. We don't want the professional players to be able to come in and fire multiple bullets against the qualifiers. So it's really important to us that to put a stamp on it and say we're going to focus on these 12 events. We've got the championship club as well. We're making it accessible for everybody. Below it, there's a satellite program which helps people even, below that level that also want to achieve the aspirations of playing in a world championship event. And I think we've nailed it, to be honest. I think I'm hoping that everybody's going to love what we've come up with, and I'm very excited to be playing it. I think it's July the 17th to September the 8th. So, and I can't wait for it to start, to be honest. I think it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah. From my perspective, I think you guys nailed the important parts. To me, the prestige is the thing I really miss sometimes online, and I crave, right? Because I'm primarily an online player. I came up playing online, and to me, I've always wanted something that was meaningful I could work towards. Not just like a paycheck or, you win a trophy that no one really knows or cares about. I wanted to win something special. So to me, this is like the perfectly designed series. I'm really looking forward to it. I want to ask you, from constructing something like this, like how do you take the idea of a series and a collaboration? Like how do you make a schedule around that? Like what is the thought process and how do you do it?
Well, obviously there's a team behind all of this. It's I primarily work with Rob and Dan, and what we do, we look at it and we go, originally you could have took the concept of the WSOP, for example, which is, multiple bracelets over a period of time, 1 or 2 bracelets a day. And we could have followed that format and come up with a world championship like that. But what we wanted to do was do something more prestigious that that like I targeted specific like 8 max, 6 max, mix max, knockout, turbo, heads up, high roller, and just focus on those those events. And then what we wanted to do, we thought to ourselves, right, why don't we do it in week chunks? So we started the series with PLO, high low, then PLO. So you have a week of PLO, high low, week of PLO. Then from the 1st of August to September the 8th, it turns to no limit. And obviously you've got your 8 max, your 6 max, you've got your knockout, and then you've got the mini main and the main, and then we finished off with the high rollers. And so the idea was that if we could do it like that, then it gives the players the opportunity to focus on what it is they want to play. And then obviously we're hoping that the players that then are successful either through the satellite program or through winning in the earlier weeks will then stay on and play the later weeks. Some people will just focus on the main event. I mean, I think one of the stars of the events is the mini main. 1K buy-in, 5 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I mean, that's something surely you'd want to play.
I'm in there. I'm streaming it.
Yeah.
I know it'll be a Twitch extravaganza for sure. 100%. How could you miss it? That's how many entrants is that going to need to hit the guarantee?
5,000.
That's a lot of people playing a $1,000 poker tournament. So I'm excited for it.
The other thing, obviously, as you know, with Rob, it's all about level playing field, which is why they're going to be single re-entry. But it's also about when you're working with a brand like WPT, it's very, very important that we recreate as much as possible the live experience. And in doing that, what we've done is we've took like the WPT live structure and made it online friendly, Right. And then what we've done is we've tried to give the best possible clocks. So for example, we'll work out what guarantee we're putting on an event, and we'll calculate how many levels that event's going to take. Once we've done that, we'll calculate, if it's a 3-day event, how we're going to break those levels up over the 3 days. Once we've done that, we'll work out what the best clock we can give the players. And it's all about, with Rob, he'll always say, can we give them more? Can we give them this? Can we extend, the late reg? Can we make sure that it doesn't go down to a small big blind? How can we give the optimal structure for the players? And to give you an example, the 3K championship event is going to have like a clock of 25 minutes day 1, 30 minutes day 2, 45 minutes day 3.
Yeah.
And the main event is 25 minutes day 1, 40 minutes day 2, 50 minutes day 3, and 60 minutes in the final. And you don't get this online normally, do you? So
no.
The opportunity to play these long clocks it means, without a doubt, it remains prestigious. And I think that was one of the things that we really wanted to achieve. We have two brands that have similar focus. They want prestigious events, they want events that are fun to play, and they want to provide quality. And I think that's really what Party Poker Live, Party Poker and WPT are all about. And I think that we have achieved that. I'm hoping that the players agree with us.
Yeah, like when you go to a live poker tournament, right? If it's early, if it starts at 11 or 12, I guess that's early for poker players. It is for me. You grab a coffee and you're settled in for a day, right? It's a moment in time where you're going to play. It doesn't feel like that with a normal online schedule, but creating that slow clock creates that environment of like, all right, this is what I'm doing today. I'm playing this tournament and this is the thing. It's a moment. So, can you talk a little bit about the Shooting Star and the charity tournament? Because I know those are some aspects that are very different from like just normal poker tournaments. They're sort of unique to the WPT and Party Poker Live. So what's up with that?
Well, we thought it would be fun to start off with an industry event for everybody, whether you're in the casino industry, gaming, or poker related.
Right.
So we're doing the poker industry event. I think it's $300 to enter with a 30K guarantee. It's on the 17th of July. To enter that, you do have to go on to Party Poker Live and fill in an application form, because you obviously do have to prove that you're in one of those 3 areas.
Right.
But I think that's going to be a really cool thing to do online. To say to all the people that are currently in this pandemic, they're all sat at home anyway. Just say, guys, here's something for you. Come on to Party Poker and play this event. So that's that. With the Shooting Stars, again, it's all about fun. It's all about saying to the players, it's kind of like halfway through the festival. I think it's 29th of July. So now we've extended September the 8th. It's kind of, after the first couple of weeks. So we start off with the poker industry. A couple of weeks later, we have the Shooting Stars. Now, with that, as you said, we're going to be raising money for charity. It's $1,100. The $100 edge fee is going to be going to a charity that we're going to choose. Probably going to be COVID related.
Right.
we'll know this week. And there's going to be around about 50 top-known players and celebrities from all walks of life. There might be a snooker player, right, rugby player, sports person. There might be reality TV, that sort of thing. And they'll have a $500 bounty on their head. But, I think it will be an awful lot of fun to play. Hopefully, Kevin will be playing. That you did a podcast with him and Rob. I'm sure that if we could get him on, players would be really excited about that. But it's nice to have something with a charity aspect, but also it's a reminder to players that poker can be fun.
Right. Absolutely. And last, I just wanted to ask you about, because with COVID, it's a very unique situation, as you know, right? Being the director of Dusk Till Dawn, which is a live venue. So we've seen collaboration with the WPT, with Poker Masters, even with Dusk Till Dawn and Playground hosting some events online. So I wanted to ask your thoughts in regards to what you think the future might hold for live tournaments and live venues collaborating with online. What are your thoughts on that space?
Well, I think you're right. I think the collaborations have been extremely successful. Like you say, at the moment we've got the Poker Masters PLO online, which obviously is a high buy-in event. 500, 1,000 through to 51,000. It's been smashing all the guarantees. So did the Super High Roller Bowl before. So so at that level, there clearly is, the collaboration has worked. But then when you look at the WPT that we did, and and as you said, some of the other collaborations we've done. It's brought other brands online. We've brought the Latam America KSOP, the EAPT from Russia, and all of them have been working. And obviously these are our live partners as well. And I think, to be honest, even after the pandemic has calmed down and we are able to start playing live again, I think that what's happened is it's going to bring lots of new players that weren't familiar with those brands, weren't familiar with those tournament experiences. And it's going to bring them online. They're going to play both online, but also want to qualify for the live version as well. Yes. So I think it's going to actually help the industry. I think the people, once they realise, at the moment they've got no choice but to play online. So they come online, they come on Bike Poker, they see the WPT World Online Championships, they see the satellite program for it. They play the satellite program, they qualify, they have a great time, great experience. Some of them are going to win a lot of money. It's going to be life-changing for some of them. They remember what a great experience they had. So when the next live event comes up, they go back to Party Poker, hopefully, and they look at qualifying for the live version of it as well. And I think that overall, it's going to be positive for the industry.
Right. I'm very excited. I mean, I guess I wear both hats sometimes. Obviously, I'm on the Party Poker side, but as a player as well. And as a player, I think it's really exciting what you guys have created. So a big thanks for the work you've put into it. And I'm just looking forward to playing this summer, Simon. So thank you so much for taking me through some of your poker history, Devilfish, the tournament's coming up this summer. It's been a blast, and appreciate having you on.
Okay, cool. Look forward to seeing you online.
Big thanks to Simon for coming on the podcast. Really interesting to hear his stories. I know there's so much more I could have asked him, but try and keep the interview to 30 minutes. So I look forward to having him on again in the future if you'll have me, Simon. Thanks for taking the time. Now, before I let you all go this week, we have our weekly competition, the hashtag #JSPokerHero competition. Now, we give a $215 million ticket to one of you listening/watching the podcast. All you have to do is tweet to this question on Twitter using the hashtag #JSPokerHero. Hashtag #JSPokerHero, and you may win yourself a $215 ticket. Now, last week's winner, congratulations to Anis Badra for correctly answering there are 12 championship events at the WPT World Online Championships. You win a $215 Party Poker Million ticket. So good luck. This week, Ragnarok starts on Thursday. Now, can you name one of the characters the tournaments are named after? Use the hashtag #JSPokerHero. Ragnarok is a new promotion going on at Party Poker where you called upon to prevent Ragnarok from happening by collecting and uniting Odin's forces against Loki. Pretty cool. The superhero aspect coming in here. I like it. It's an interesting story. So check that promotion out. Go ahead and answer this question using the hashtag #JSPokerHero, and maybe you will win a ticket to the Party Poker Million this week. Thank you all so much for taking the time today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you're listening on iTunes, a rate and subscribe would be awesome. Spotify, you just do your Spotify thing. And YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, as always, is much appreciated. Thank you all so much for taking the time. But until next week, we'll see you later.